So here we are. It's November 12th. Still no results on the election. It's looking like we won't have any results anytime soon. It appears that there are anomalies with the results, with a lot of the ballots that have been counted or tampered with or whatever. We don't know. We have at the very least, we have to ask the question whether or not we can vote in confidence anymore for our election system. We have a population that is primed to go at each other's throat. We have it doesn't really even matter who ends up becoming president at this point. It's basically a foregone conclusion that whomever becomes the president, there's going to be lots of civil unrest at the least, and potentially more than that. So everything that we probably understood going into this election as far as threatening the election has happened. And for all intents and purposes, it's essentially the worst case scenario. It would have been a close election regardless. A large proportion of the population that voted on the left-hand side cannot reconcile, because in their mind, Trump is evil, essentially. They can't reconcile how so many Americans voted for him. And at the same time, there's a lot of people on the right-hand side that also cannot reconcile how a large proportion of the population was not able to see through the establishment politician that Joe Biden is. He is the establishment. That's what he is. We are at a absolutely critical time. And I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that the stakes that we are in right now are just as high as they were in 1860 during that election. And I'm afraid that the consequences for this election, regardless of who becomes president, may in fact be as bad and potentially worse than the results of the 1860 election. So here we are. We still have some time. I'm not confident that there's going to be any slowing down of the rhetoric. I'm not confident there's going to be any slowing down of the measures that are taken, punitive or otherwise. I think if Trump wins, the radicals on the left are going to just absolutely explode. And what we saw in the wake of the George Floyd protests are just that they will be small in comparison. And by their own admittance, and they've stated that that's what will happen. On the other hand, if Biden wins with all of the questions dealing with the validity of his votes, if they can't dispel the questions that people have about potential voter fraud, if they can't dispel those, they will continue to rear their ugly head from now on, forever. There won't be a time when that's not in the back of people's minds. And the only way in a society as diverse as ours, in a society that has as many freedoms that we have, that this all works is if we have a high trust society. If we cannot trust our the system that we utilize to address the grievances that we have in a fair and transparent way, that's the glue at the end of the day that holds it together, is that trust that, I may disagree with some people fundamentally, but I trust that the system's going to be fair and impartial, and they're administering that system and through policy and through action. But if that trust is lost, we're already losing trust socially. The social ramifications that we have endured longer than Trump's been in office. This has been happening, deteriorating since the last 20 or 30 years, but we're at a crescendo right now. That creates social low trust, which we absolutely have now. And then you compile that on top of lack of trust within the system. And the past 4 years, the left has complained about the system as it stands, and now they're self-righteous about it if Joe Biden wins. But at the same time, a lot of them are expressing concerns about the fact that Republicans were able to make gains in the House and maintain the Senate, it's looking like. And again, they cannot reconcile how, people can think that way. They've already othered them in their mind. They're an other. They're not a person. They're not a human that has disparate thoughts compared to them that need to be listened to. And while you may disagree with them, you can see their humanity. We're losing that. You lose that, and you lose the governmental system that's supposed to be transparent and fair and established. Then you go straight into a low trust society where nothing good follows that. And this is what we're sitting on right now. So, with the time that we have left before things start to get out of hand, I would suggest stocking up on things to get through lean times. I don't know how long the lean times will be. As far as I understand it, I think probably Biden's going to take the presidency, either fairly or not. It doesn't matter. I think that he's going to take it. I think that they're already talking about a lockdown as it stands. So at the very least, prepare for that. Get in while the going is good, because we saw what happened last time there was a lockdown and people seem to lose their minds. Get in shape. Get in shape. There is no reason at this point, with everything that's going on, your fitness, physical, emotional, and spiritual, may be the only thing that keeps you alive. It's just good for you anyways. In the best of times, it's a good practice to have, but you can put it off and deal with what's in front of you. But we're coming to a point where it may very well be that your life will depend on it, and the life of your family may depend on it as well. If you are not very well trained, I would highly suggest, before they start locking everything down, get some last minute trainings in. If you are trained but you have weapons but you haven't shot them in a while, I would suggest dusting them off and making sure they're zeroed and they're clean and they're operational. If you are if you're very highly trained and but you have a limitation on the amount of ammo you can use, I would suggest getting in enough to stay proficient. But we're going to need to conserve things, because if things shut down, then supplies are going to become pretty sparse. Resupply is going to become pretty sparse. and any supplies that you have. They'll go faster than you think. So we've got a little bit of time now. I highly suggest we prepare for it. Use the time we have now. We've had 8 or 9 months at this point, and if this election didn't convince you, I don't know what will. But for those of you that are paying attention and you happen to want to listen to me, and you take anything that I say seriously, and if you go into my previous videos, you'll see that I've talked about these things. And the last video I posted was from a year ago, and I basically everything that I said that was going to happen or could happen has happened. So, you know, I hope that the worst case scenario doesn't play out. I hope that we don't find ourselves in this circumstance, but it's definitely on the table. It is absolutely on the table. So, what's it worth to you? I promise you, if something bad happens and you're not prepared, the last thought you will have in your mind will be, damn, I could have just taken a couple hours a day or 1 or 2 hours a day or spent a little bit of money over time, and I wouldn't be in this situation. And if it doesn't happen, you've got your fitness, you've got your health, and you've got stuff for a rainy day or an emergency, tornado, hurricane, earthquake, whatever. You're prepared for that. Create an evacuation plan for you and your family. Don't tell anybody what it is outside of you and your family. Have stuff prepared to be quickly loaded into a vehicle. You may want to try and stay your ground. The more urban an area that you live in, the more this applies to you. If you're more rural, you can afford to stand your ground a little bit more. But if it gets really bad, it may not be tenable to stay where you're at. Know the ingress and egress locations in and out of where you live, because speed is the key. Try not. You need to have a set scenario that is basically, okay, we can't stay here anymore. So you may have to abandon your home and let the mob do whatever it's going to do, or whatever. I mean, whatever happens. But if you don't have something in place that is go status, that is a clear signal for you to get out of there, you may just die in place, you and your family. So you don't want to find yourself in a situation that you can't extract yourself from. You may be the best armed, best marksman, best tactical guy in the world with all the ammo to back it up. However, if the right number of people approach your home, you may take out a few of them, but they're going to burn that house down eventually. You can't cover all the exits or entrance points. You can't do it all, particularly if you're in an urban or built-up environment. You can't do it by yourself. Now, you got a bunch of people in there, you might be able to hold them off for a bit. But if you're in a situation where that's called for, there's no guarantee that they're not going to come back just as heavily armed. So, something to think about. It's better to survive and fight another day, keep your family alive, and fight another day, than to die in place at your home and you lose everything anyways. Start networking if you haven't started already with like-minded individuals. Try to come up with contingencies and link up points and link up criteria. Vet them though. You don't want to be trying to figure out what the intentions of a stranger are during turmoil, because that's a recipe for disaster. So, if you have trusted people in your life now that have skill sets or you share common values and beliefs, it might be smart to start talking to them now and coming up with a game plan. And again, you never have to use it, and you've just fostered a stronger relationship with somebody you already care about anyways, with something that you're both interested in, or multiple of you are interested in. And that's the best case scenario. And the worst case scenario, it could save your life and the life of your family and their family as well. Make sure that when you're positioning your ability to get away, that you have the ability to get away. So you may think, if things are like, pay attention to what's going on in your area, and what's going on around you, and don't make it easy for anybody to try and break in or get into your property. But at the same time, don't make it so difficult for them to get in that you can't get out. So again, that's you need to have a line in the sand criteria to follow, where you're going to be able to evacuate from where you're located, and get to a rally point or a staging area to regroup and game plan from there. I would highly suggest printing out GPS satellite imagery of your location and any areas that you plan on being for this time. We may not have cell or data service at this point, and at the same time, if you have a cell or a data service and you have to evacuate, that also means you can be tracked. So you might have to ditch your phone, and you might have to ditch your any device that can be zeroed in on, and you're going to have to rely on hard paper or hard map capability, land navigation and things like that. So if you're going to operate in an area and you're using GPS all the time to navigate around, it might be a good idea to start practicing that now. Again, while we still have mobility, if we don't have a shutdown yet, and you can practice navigating with your GPS imagery. And also you can validate it too, because sometimes it's not updated, and there may be a washout somewhere where you think there's a road that you can go on and it may be washed out. So validate your routes, validate your system, put them in a Ziploc bag so they stay dry, and keep them readily available for you. If you have the capability to stage supplies or ammo at a location that will be safe, it might be a good idea to do that. If it won't be tampered with and it won't be easily found, and you have confidence that you can keep it there and critters won't get into it, or water, it won't get wet, or be ruined or rusted or anything like that. But you can still get to it if you need to. That's an option. That gives you options. It raises your survivability. You may not be in a situation where you're going to be able to respond from your home. You may be traveling and be pulling into your neighborhood and seeing things going on and go, like, if you go home right now, it's over. So it may just be a better idea to keep driving to your staging area. I would highly recommend, everywhere you travel from now on, no matter the circumstance, you have a bug out bag in your vehicle and a means to fight. Everywhere you go. Every day I load a bag into my vehicle and I have a means to fight, just in case. I can fight myself out of most situations and get the hell out of there if I need to. And it's a chore, but it's also insurance. We're in a tough time right now as a country. I hope that our institutions are resilient enough to bounce back from the challenges that we are going to face, that we have faced, and that we're going to face. But I have seen similar sentiments and rhetoric come out of different areas of the world where similar things have occurred, and they always get a lot worse before they get better. A lot of people got to die before people get fed up with it, The security has to diminish to a point where everybody has to have fear. And in that environment, the most radical and ruthless people come into power. Then either the regional leaders, tribal leaders, neighborhood leaders, gang members, whatever. They fill that vacuum to create order locally. There's going to be de facto security apparatuses of people that decide to start pulling security within their own neighborhood, but that's no guarantee that that's a good thing, because you don't know what you get with that. So, again, within your own neighborhood, talk to your neighbors, figure out kind of where they stand, walk around your neighborhood and look for indicators of people who may be sympathetic to you and your family, who may align with you and your values. There's evidence if you look. Look for flags, look for, bumper stickers, look for, military type or law enforcement type stickers. They're there if you look. And, just communicate with them and introduce yourself if you haven't. And just talk to them like a normal human being. Figure out if that's a good option. And again, at the best case scenario, you're fostering relationships with your neighbors and you're building a stronger community. Worst case scenario, you may be able to fight off a mob as a community with people that you know are willing to stand with you for the immediate threat. So, there's a lot to do. And if you're finding yourself getting big-eyed and going, holy crap, this is getting out of hand, all of this is just it's no guarantee, but it's an insurance policy to help stack the deck in your favor a little bit better. Because once all of that is said and done, that's when the real challenge begins, honestly. It'd be if the worst course of action plays out, there's going to be a large culling in the first 6 months to a year. If our system shut down, if climate control goes down, if the trucks stop or the railheads stop, and I have no doubt in my mind that radical organizations are going to try and block railroads, which a majority of our freight that moves within the country that transports goods is on railroads, and it wouldn't be that hard to do. And the stuff that's not transported through railheads is transported through trucks. If trucks won't go into cities because they're extremely dangerous, you're going to have a large number of people in the cities that starve, and they lose goods and services, the ability to provide goods and services. And when they run out, where are they going to go? They're not going to stay there. They can't. They're going to start roaming out further and further and further. And there's going to be friction points. If you live in the suburbs, things break down. You're going to be that first ring of people that are looking to take advantage of the situation to steal your stuff. And if it's you or them, you have that mentality, and so do they. It may not be tenable to stay there. And then once those have been gutted, it'll move out further. And if you think the military or the police are going to be able to come in and save you, likely no. And also, another consideration is that in a lot of respects, if there's a crackdown, it can be counterproductive. And a lot of times, if there is legislation passed to deal with a level of civil unrest that we may see, well, those have enduring effects, even if they've managed to circumvent the problem or prevent the problem from getting any worse and bring it under control. It's not often that they retract those powers that they have to enact, which is a direct threat to liberty. We've seen that with the Patriot Act and the renewal of the Patriot Act and the additions to the Patriot Act. We've seen in the last 20 years the rise of in a surveillance state, essentially. We've seen more infringements on civil liberties, and more. And So there's no guarantee that they're gonna help you, or they're gonna be interested in helping you. And if you're somebody that's trying to survive this, you may already be painted. I have no doubt they're still going to have propaganda. They're still going to have a mainstream media. They're still going to be broadcasting to the world to try and diminish the seriousness of the problem, because we still have to operate on a world stage. And you may just be the new terrorist. That may be your label. So, you may not be able to stay where you're at. It may not be a mob that comes and forces you to leave. It may be a knock on the door in the middle of the night, or not even a knock. We don't know. So, you need to pay attention to what's going on in your neighborhood. You need to pay attention to what's going on where you live. You need to know every route in and out of the places that you are most likely to be. And you need to have criteria set in place for you to know that I can't go back there. I have to go somewhere safe. And you need to know where that place is. And if you are not co-located with you or your loved ones, or if you are not co-located with your loved ones or people that you plan on operating with, you need to have a plan in place where you guys can do a link up together. They need to know what that is, because they're going to have to be able to make that determination even if you are not there. And you have to acknowledge that if that criteria has been met, you know that there's a link up point, and you should not tell anybody where that is. You may have to create a rudimentary code that you only understand. So if you send a text quickly, hey, I'm acting, we're going to the treehouse or something like that, and that lets you know, oh shit, okay, we're going to a rally point right there. I gotta ditch my phone. They gotta ditch their phone, and they'll be there for a set amount of time waiting for you guys to link up. And if that doesn't happen, then you have a secondary link up point, because you may not be able to get to that link up point. So there needs to be a timeline established for you to be able to know that, all right, if I can get to that link up within this time period, I'm going to go there and do it. Like for me, I work 2.5 hours away from where my family lives. So let's pretend that something happens while I'm here and I have to leave from here, and my family has to leave. And we have a 4-hour window. If I can't get there in a 4-hour window, I'm not even going to go to that link up point. I'm going to go to the next one, and my wife is going to have the children with everything from the link up point and from the home that we have that's bug out ready inside our other vehicle, and I will meet them at that secondary link up point, because it may not be possible to get to that first one. So there needs to be a timeline set up on that for survivability. And staying moving is important too. If you stay in one place too long, you can be zeroed in on, and you can be taken out, either arrested or killed or looted or whatever. Any number of things can happen. So, fire hose advice here in November 12th of 2020. Excuse me. I will attempt to post more stuff from now on, as long as YouTube will let me. I don't have that many subscribers, and I'm not sure anybody is even really going to watch this seriously. But if you happen to watch this and you care, and you think that it's a value added, please give me feedback. If you have any additional feedback to give that might be better advice than I have, by all means, put it in the comments section. I'll be praying for our country. I will be praying for everybody that's about to go through what it is we're about to go through. I hope it's not bad, but hope's not a plan. I'm not planning on that. You guys have a good day. Good luck. And I'll try and keep this up as long as things are relatively stable. Take care. Bye.